Marcus Aurelius once warned that comfort isn't peace, it's a slow, quiet trap for your mind. How does this affect your living? How does this affect your destiny? How does this affect your legacy? How does this affect your family? Everything, all of the above, right? So, who is Marcus Aurelius? He's a Roman emperor and a Stoic philosopher. He's written many books. I'm currently reading Meditations, and I wanted to talk about a couple things I've been learning in the book and how I've been using it in my day-to-day life. So I want to talk about what is comfort because it's kind of hard to illustrate in your minds if you're one of these people, if you're just living in peace, blah blah blah. So comfort, why it's so easy to be comfortable is because you think less. A lot of this comfort will be doom scrolling on your couch, watching something, eating. You're really not thinking of your life and how you're using your current time. Um, so you have less problems when you're living in comfort. Well, less problems as in the present moment. But you'll tend to realize when you stay in this path of comfortability, you start to get into this path of doing the same thing every day. Um, a lot of most people have to go out and work a job, right? Come back, tend to their family, and some might say that it's peace, but before you realize that you're just living in comfortability, you don't you don't realize everything you're missing out on. So you feel better in the moment. And I mean, it's of course it's easier to be comfortable because there's less likely for bad outcomes. You know what's going to happen. You know what's most likely. You don't have to overthink. You don't have to admit you're wrong. So it's very easy to choose to be comfortable. But once you realize that your ego doesn't have to be destroyed for you to be uncomfortable, you don't you don't have to be right all the time. You can admit you're wrong. You can admit that you can fail. Then you start to realize that being uncomfortable might be the way to go. So one analogy, philosopher Plato, he has the cave theory. So his allegory of the cave is that people prefer to be in comfort because they're seeing their familiar shadows. So in this cave that there's shadows, right? They're drawn by light from behind them and casted shadows in front of them, and they're in this cave. And one of these people, they're chained up, right? Escapes and goes up and sees the beautiful world we live in, right? And he comes down and he says to the others, "You wouldn't believe me. Look at this, right?" And it's a very cool way to put it because he discovered reality, right? But the people in the cave said, "Nah, you're crazy. We're comfortable down here, you know? We're living a good life, watching all this, right?" So, of course, it's painful discovering reality because you realize what trap you've been living in, as in the cave. And it's kind of an illusion of control, right? You think you're in control being in the cave, but in reality, you're just on autopilot, right? And this can really start to affect your psyche because you never really adapt. All your problems seem so much bigger than they are. You're incapable of solving your problems. You're incapable of listening to others, being there for others. You're incapable of being grateful because any little thing can affect you so much because you're not used to being uncomfortable. So, being uncomfortable might be hard, but it would awake you from your spiritual death. Kierkegaard and Heidegger wrote that comfort puts people into mindless robotic state of conformity. This means experiencing existential dread of deep discomfort forces you to wake up to live authentically, take responsibility, and overall live authentically would mean to leave the comfort you've been in, which could be your friend group, your family. You have to realize who you are. So, breaking the cave illusion would leave the darkness of ignorance. It so once you leave that darkness of ignorance, you're left with expanding your freedom and resilience. That could mean it's anti-fragility, right? When you look for comfort, you become fragile because a minor inconvenience can ruin your day. Choosing discomfort builds psychological armor, making you adaptable to life's inevitable chaos. When you go out and you choose to be uncomfortable, you're setting yourself up for more odds to be in your favor. You're setting yourself up to adapt to life and take control of it instead of watching it go by. And I see so many people that can't get out of this state of mind because they're so comfortable living with their problems and using it as an excuse to dread on the day, right? To sleep all day. They're using it as an excuse to stay this way. And it's so hard for these people to come out of it because then they actually have to deal with their self-image. Or, I mean, their their actual problems, right? So, that'd mean breaking the cage. Comfort keeps your world small. Stepping into uncomfortable situations expands your boundaries, giving you more choices, deeper skills, greater personal freedom. If you live in comfort, you're going to feel as if you're trapped because you're unable to do the things you want to because you're worried about what might happen, or you're worried about how other people might look at you, or you're worried about how you're mainly just worried of the loss of peace, kind of. That's how I'd put it. You're worried that you're going to lose your set of peace and that you're actually going to have to go through something. So, in my book I've been reading, so what Marcus Aurelius says, he says in Meditations that when you can escape your mental distress by expanding your perspective to include the immense scale of time in the universe, it helps visualize the insignificance of your daily worries. So, what does that mean? It means when you look at the broader scale, you look at the universe, it lowers the stakes, it stops the panic, it stops the emotional reactions. You get to focus your energy and highlight your choices. One thing Marcus practiced, um, he would look, right? He'd use the 3-minute rule. So the first minute, he's looking at his local lens. He's feeling his feet on the floor. He's looking at his hands. He's realizing his health, right? His immediate surroundings, acknowledging the current tensions without any judgment. And in the second minute, he's looking at the cosmic scale, visualizing rising above the earth to see that the planet's scale and the insignificance of the daily problems that he's facing. So, what does that mean? Kind of closing your eyes and looking broader, right? You're looking at the past, the present, the future. You're looking at the history of generations. You're looking about how these problems right now, they're not going to be remembered. And all you have right now is the present moment and how you act on those. So the third minute is the time horizon, considering the vast expanse of the history and future generations, putting the present moment into a broader perspective. It's a lot easier to look at the broader moment if you realize that the past and future are inevitable, right? They already happen or it's going to happen, and you can't control it. But what you can control are your actions right now. So when you come back to reality after, you could say, this meditation, you can realize that it lowers your stakes. The universe is massive, your time is short, and it takes away the crushing pressure to be perfect. There's you're never going to be perfect, but once you make these mistakes that are inevitable, right? Face your problems that are inevitable. The way you deal with them and the way you bounce back from them are the only things that are going to be remembered, and they're the only things that are going to put you in a mood and lifestyle to overcome them. So I think it's very important that it also, after practicing this, it stops emotional reactions. So panic, anger, and anxiety happen when you are too close to a problem. So when you zoom out, it creates space to think logically about your problem, what you can do about it, what you can't do about it. And therefore, you go and you can only act on what you can change, which is usually just your emotions and actions. It's all it is. You can't control anyone else. So after practicing this, you can focus your own energy. So since you can't control the universe or the time, you can stop wasting energy on things outside of your power. So why would I worry about things I can't control when I can worry about the things I can control and change my reality by using my brain? And just it's very simple concept, but so many people are unable to get this concept because they feel so behind. They feel so they need to be perfect, and they're letting their emotional reactions go above their logical solution. So when you highlight your choices, you realize that the current moment is yours. You gain control by choosing how to act right now rather than letting your worries control you. So instead of dreading the past or worrying about the future, you can come come to terms, come to contentment that you can control right now and decide your future and decide how it's going to affect you. So I just wanted to go over this because I thought it was interesting in my book. I wanted to make a video about it because I see a lot of people in my life um, that are unable to come to senses and really just zoom out, look at the bigger picture, and realize that there's no need to be this selfish, there's no need to be this ungrateful when generations has passed before you. Generations will be in front of you. You just need to take control of now.